Thank you very much. Mr. Pedersen has just concluded his briefing to the Security Council. He has a few moments to say some remarks, after which he'll take a few questions. Mr. Pedersen.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, and as always, good to see you. You heard my briefing. I started by, quoting the High Commissioner for Human Rights and, her announcement that she, the work they have been doing, identifying more than 350,000 people individually, by name, by date, and place when and they were killed. And of course, it's a stark reminder of what the 10 years of conflict has brought to the Syrian people. And I think, that coupled now with the challenges we see on the ground. Of course, I reminded the Council that we have had 18 months of calm, but as I have repeatedly stated to the Council, this is a fragile calm. And if you add to that fragile calm, also the economic challenges, the humanitarian challenges, the fact that 90% of the Syrian people are now living under poverty, that more than 13 million people need humanitarian assistance. All of this, I think, should remind us that, and of course the fact that, half the pre-war population left their homes and that refugees are not returning in any big numbers, that this is a crisis that needs to be sorted out and that the time for political initiatives are now. And as you know, I have stated to the Syrian parties, to key international actors, that we need to move forward in what I call the step-for-step approach. And I have challenged them to work with me on this, to put forward what they can do, and not only ask what the other side can be doing. Then I also came with an announcement that finally we have an agreement for the next round of the Constitutional Committee. We have now an agreement on the methodology, and I emphasize the 3 points that I have now agreed with the co-chair nominated by the government and the co-chair nominated by the opposition. That is respect for the terms of reference, delivering of draft constitutional texts before the meetings, and that the two co-chairs will be meeting with me the day before the meeting and throughout the week to prepare for good and hopefully progress on the CC. Thank you.
James, I'll start with you, please. Thank you.
James Bays, Al Jazeera. Special Envoy, your constitutional committee process has been going on for 2 years now, and it hasn't achieved anything yet. What do you say to Syrians who fear this will be yet another meeting that doesn't reach agreement? And by having another meeting, aren't you just dragging out a process that's already effectively dead because it's been blocked by the government side? Any progress?
I'm sure you remember that I said in January after the 5th round that we can't continue like this. And that's why I've been negotiating for the last 8 months, attempts to get this back on track. I think we started exactly 2 years ago. Late October, we had the first meeting. That first meeting was a good meeting. That gave a lot of promises. But then, for different reasons, I think we have gotten derailed. And my hope, and as I said to the Council, is that we are now back on track. That with the agreement that we have managed to get to, that we can actually not only continue to prepare, but that we also now start to draft. And if we do this in a proper manner, I believe that that will give hope to the Syrian people. But you are absolutely right, that if we fail also this time, that will be another disappointment in the long list of disappointments for the Syrian people.
So it's the last chance?
We can't give up finding a solution to the Syrian crisis, but as I emphasized all along, the Constitutional Committee will not solve the crisis alone. We need it to be followed by other things, and I will continue to work on that in parallel, of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Majid Ghali, Ruda Media Network. Mr. Pedersen, thank you for the opportunity. I want your direct and honest thoughts on this. The Syrian government, why would Syrian government have any motive to compromise on a negotiation? Since they are militarily on the ground, they are not doing bad, The opposition is on its last stronghold. Diplomatically, Arab countries, including Jordan, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, are racing to open up the relationship with Syrian government, and now there are talks about lifting US sanctions. Why would Syrian government have any need to compromise in these talks? Thank you.
You are making quite a few assumptions with your questions. And I think what is important for me is to emphasize what I've said already and that I emphasize in the briefing. That is that the situation in Syria is not sustainable. And it is not in the interest of anyone to keep the situation like it is now. You know, the country is still divided basically in 3 different territories. We have Daesh and other terrorist groups roaming around, and we have an economic collapse. We have refugees that haven't started to return. We have IDPs that are still living far away from their homes. There are, you know, the challenges are enormous, and we need to start to address all of this. And my hope is that we can start doing that now.
Final question.
One more question.
Final question, Batul.
Thank you very much. Mr. Turkish News Agency. Mr. Pedersen, you already mentioned at the Security Council that it would be a very important issue tomorrow between President Erdogan and President Putin. What would you want the leaders to come out and say after tomorrow's meeting?
Thank you for that question. My hope is that tomorrow's meeting will emphasize the importance of continued calm in Syria, you know, that we could hopefully develop that calm into what I've asked the Council for many times, to a nationwide ceasefire, and that building on that we can start moving the political process forward, and that an encouragement for the government and the opposition to sit down and to start real negotiations. That's my hope. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you. Thank you. As Mr. Pedersen noted, he's traveling again today. Thank you.
Thank you.